Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking one of the most fascinating career arcs in modern basketball history. We're talking about a guy who absolutely conquered the college game, navigated the crazy waters of the NBA, and then made a move literally nobody saw coming. Yep, we're talking about the legendary Billy Donovan, or as he was known back in the day, Billy the Kid. Grab a seat because his story is a total masterclass in adaptability, basketball genius, and honestly, checking your ego at the door. So let's dive right into this giant mystery that completely shook the basketball world in July of 2026. Why on earth would a Hall of Fame head coach take an assistant job? I mean, it goes against everything we think we know about professional sports, right? Usually, when you reach the absolute mountaintop of your profession, you definitely don't take a step down the org chart. You either steer the ship or you sail off into a nice, comfortable retirement. But, as we're going to see, Billy Donovan is definitely not your typical coach. Just look at the headline that had everyone scratching their heads. July 17th, 2026, the breaking news drops. Billy Donovan voluntarily steps down as head coach of the Chicago Bulls. But get this, instead of taking a sabbatical or hunting for another head coaching gig, he agrees to become the lead assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs, working under head coach Mitch Johnson. It was a massive pivot. The whole basketball community was absolutely stunned. So why'd he do it? Well, we're going to figure that out.
And to add a whole other layer to this mystery, you gotta factor in his age. He's 61. At 61 years old, making a career pivot like this is practically unheard of. We aren't talking about some young up-and-comer trying to learn the ropes here. This is a seasoned veteran stepping back from the big chair at an age when most of his peers are, desperately clinging to their head coaching status.
Section 1. Origins of Billy the Kid. To really get why the Spurs coveted him so much, we have to loop back to his super gritty playing days. Legendary coach Rick Pitino once said, "I've never in my life had anyone work as hard to improve." And he meant it. When Pitino first met a young Billy Donovan at Providence College, the kid was barely playing. We're talking just a few minutes a game. But under Pitino's notoriously grueling system, Donovan totally transformed himself. He became this relentless point guard, earned the nickname Billy the Kid, and literally led the Providence Friars all the way to the 1987 Final Four. He wasn't born with the most natural talent, but he for sure outworked absolutely everyone else in the gym. Now, here's a wild anecdote you probably don't hear too often. After a really brief stint trying to play pro, Donovan actually left basketball entirely in 1989. He took a job on Wall Street as a stockbroker, and man, he was absolutely miserable. He despised doing those cold call stock sales. He hated it so much, in fact, that he went back and begged Pitino to let him try coaching. Pitino told him to stick it out in finance at first, doubting if Donovan even had the vocal leadership to coach. But Billy was persistent, and that persistence paid off big time, with a completely meteoric rise. He started out as an unpaid graduate assistant for Pitino at Kentucky in 1989. He proved himself so incredibly fast that by 1994, at just 28 years old, he became the youngest head coach in Division I basketball at Marshall University. He turned that whole program around so quickly that just 2 years later, at age 30, the University of Florida practically handed him the keys to their struggling program. Section 2. The Florida Gator Dynasty. What's absolutely wild about this next phase is how he built an unstoppable juggernaut in Gainesville. For 19 years, he didn't just coach at Florida. He basically became the institution. His collegiate dominance is just staggering, especially when you contrast it with the grinding reality of his later NBA years. Look at Florida. 2 NCAA championships, 4 Final Fours, 6 SEC regular season championships. He took a school with barely any basketball history and made them royalty. But when you look down at his NBA phase with OKC and Chicago, well, he did win Co-Coach of the Year in 2020, but the overall success was way harder to come by. It's a completely different 82-game grind. Before we jump fully into the pros, though, we got to talk about his absolute masterpiece in college, those historic back-to-back national championships in 2006 and 2007. What makes this so special, and honestly tells you everything you need to know about Donovan as a leader, is that after winning in '06, his entire starting five, guys like Joakim Noah and Al Horford, unselfishly put off the NBA draft. They came back to school for one single reason: to win that 2007 title together for their coach. You just do not see that kind of buy-in. Section 3. Navigating the NBA. Now, let's move to his professional coaching trials, which were definitely more of a mixed bag. Navigating the NBA takes a completely different toolkit than hyping up 19-year-olds. If we traced his eras, you see that rock-solid 19-year-old foundation he built at Florida starting in 1996. Then finally, in 2015, he makes the huge leap to the NBA with the Oklahoma City Thunder. 5 years later, he heads to the Chicago Bulls in 2020. And that leads us through a decade plus of navigating the star-driven NBA, right up to his 2026 pivot to the Spurs.
Actually, scratch that. His very first brush with the NBA is a crazy detour we absolutely have to mention. Check this out. Back in 2007, right after winning his second national title, Donovan actually accepted the head coaching job for the Orlando Magic. The contract was massive, reportedly around $27.5 million. But he got cold feet. A week later, he realized his heart was still in the college game. He literally begged the Magic to release him from the contract, apologized to everyone, and went back to Florida for 8 more years. Wild, right? So when he finally made the jump for good in 2015, his experience really split into 2 distinct chapters. In OKC, he found real success. 243 wins over 5 seasons, made the playoffs every single year, even hit the Western Conference Finals right out of the gate. But those 6 seasons in Chicago, that was a tough rebuild. Even though he logged 226 wins, which was actually 4th most in Bulls history, the team finished sub-500 overall while he was there, and they missed the playoffs his last 4 seasons. Section 4. A surprising Spurs hiring. This brings us right back to the summer of 2026. After that exhausting run in Chicago, a massive shift happens. And the craziest part? The Bulls actually stated they wanted him to stay. He even had a contract option. But after a bunch of meetings with ownership, Donovan just decided to step away. It's a night and day contrast. He leaves a Bulls organization stuck in a frustrating rebuild to join the San Antonio Spurs. He steps in to replace Sean Sweeney, who, ironically enough, just left the Spurs to become the head coach of the Orlando Magic. It's this wild swap of roles in the NBA ecosystem. Now, put yourself in the Spurs' shoes. Why bring in a 61-year-old former head coach? Well, they brought him in for his brilliant, holistic basketball mind. The guy he replaced, Sean Sweeney, was mostly a defensive specialist. Donovan, on the other hand, is definitely not going to be restricted just to defense. He brings this vast knowledge of both the NBA and college games, offering a ton of strategic experience on both ends of the floor. And maybe the biggest factor? He has a deep, long-standing trust with Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson. And you know, this partnership didn't just materialize out of thin air. There's this fascinating micro-story here. Back in 2017, Billy Donovan's son, Billy Donovan III, was actually coaching on the staff of the Austin Spurs, which is San Antonio's G League affiliate. And who was he coaching alongside? You guessed it, Mitch Johnson. That connection forged a really strong bond of trust between the Donovan family and Johnson, which ultimately paved the way for this 2026 hiring. It really is a small basketball world. Section 5. Hall of Fame assistant. Let's look at what this move means for his ultimate legacy. You know, when a coach takes a so-called demotion, critics usually start whispering that the game has passed them by. But one single year puts all of that to rest, 2025. Just 1 year before taking this assistant job, Billy Donovan was officially inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. His elite status was permanently cemented, so he didn't take this Spurs job because he had to. He took it because he wanted to. Which leaves us with a pretty compelling final question. In a league that is so often driven by massive egos, alpha personalities, and this relentless pursuit of being number one, is stepping down to be an assistant actually the ultimate testament to just a pure, unadulterated love for teaching the game? Think about it. He didn't need the money, he didn't need the fame, and he definitely didn't need to prove his legacy. He just wanted to be back in the gym helping players get better, just like he did decades ago. Really makes you wonder, what is the true mark of a basketball legend? I'll leave you to think about that one. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.